very good morning to you, and thank you for coming and for providing us with such relevant and interesting information. I will say this, we only have 1 hour, and it means that as a chairperson, I have to be really strict, to make sure that everyone who's on my list gets a chance to speak. And I'm very grateful too, and I speak for all of us, that some of you have given us additional information, your own comments on the dialogue yesterday. So we will take that into account. But from now on, we can't do that anymore because it's over at lunchtime, you see. So thank you very much for all the information that you gave us, and we will take into account what you have brought us here. And I will say this, I must say I'm deeply impressed with the contributions that you've made, particularly the short summaries of the longer submissions that you've made. Rest assured that we have read those already, and this is just as reminders. And if you could just highlight not all the problems that you can think of, but only the key points that you think that this committee should definitely take up. So be salespersons for the rights that you are most particularly concerned with, okay? So we begin. I have the list starting on with the Taiwan International Medical Alliance, and then Trans-Asia Sisters Associations, and the Environmental Law Committee of Taiwan Bar Association. Are there any groups that are not on the list who would definitely want to speak? That's not the case. Oh, there's one. Okay. So I'll try and remember. You'll be at the end, depending. Just hope that just hope that your friends will leave you time. Okay. Okay. Fine. So here we go. The floor is yours. The Taiwan International Medical Alliance, Tima. He's not here.
Bar Association's time slot. So Tima is next door, but I don't have to speak if because I already submit the written statement.
Okay.
To save your time.
Okay. So then next is Trans-Asia Sisters Association. It's not here either. Okay. Then we have the is there? Okay. Good. I always name 2 or 3 so that we don't waste time waiting in between, you see. So after that, we will have the Environmental Law Committee of Taiwan Bar Association. So, please.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here representing Trans-Asia Sisters Association. I'm from Vietnam. Today, I'd like to talk about family rights, or right of family union. According to Article 10, nations around the world should support and protect families in terms of their right of family union. However, in Taiwan, in order to prevent false marriage, the Taiwanese government has imposed offshore interview on people from Taiwan as well as 21 other countries. However, there are no concrete or clear regulations regarding this mechanism. So this mechanism has resulted to that a lot of families do not get to reunion, and lots of foreign brides are not able to get documents for them to live legally here in Taiwan. So family rights are being interfered here in Taiwan. However, the Taiwanese government does not impose this mechanism of offshore marriage interview on people of other countries. So I believe this is a very bad social discrimination. So this is something that I wanted to share today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is the Environmental Law Committee of Taiwan Bar Association, and then South Link Medical Foundation pre-opening office. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Dear committee members, I would like to provide some comments on the ICSPR regarding Article 11 and 12, but I will going to speak in Chinese, and I have provided the English version and Chinese version for your reference. 有关那个金色文公约。
In terms of Article 11 and 12 of ICCPR, I had a chance to talk the day before. I talked about a case of the third stage of Zhongke, and the Taiwanese government in 2010, the Taiwanese government disrespect the verdict decided in the court. So in our previous material, we showed that if the Taiwanese government agencies do not follow the verdict, there will be a very negative implications for environmental protection and the health of the people of Taiwan. So this shows the violation of ICCPR of the Taiwanese government. Secondly, I'd like to talk about the verdict. We know that because of the case of Taichung Science-Based Industrial Park, Stage 3, which is why we see the fourth stage, the issue of the first stage and Miramar Resort. So a lot of negative implications, and these ripple effects have badly damaged the rights of Taiwanese people, and it shows the violation of ICCPR. And in this case, as well as many other cases involving the indigenous people of Taiwan, when it comes to their use of local land, the Taiwanese government fails to abide by the basic law of the indigenous people of Taiwan. And it also violates the rights that are being protected and stated in ICCPR. So we very much look forward to the committee to pay attention to the wrong act of Taiwan, and to provide Taiwanese government with the proper advice and recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Information. Next is the Southlink Medical Foundation pre-opening office, and then the Taiwan Tongji Hotline Association, and I'll say something to that in a second, but we now have the Southlink Medical Foundation.
你好，我是南回医疗财团法人。
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here on behalf of Southlink Medical Foundation pre-opening office. The report submitted by the government mentioned several times that the government has distributed a lot of resources to improve indigenous people's health condition. However, the average lifespan of the indigenous peoples was 7.8 years, shorter than the national average in 2001. We believe that the indigenous people reside in the mountainous area or remote island, so they are relatively disadvantaged. While the medical institutions are privatized and commercialized, the government is so slow to react. For example, this February, a indigenous baby girl in Jiangxi was suffering from very bad diarrheas, and however, she didn't have access to health care. And also, for example, the elderly and the elderlies are not able to drive, and their children went to the cities, and they live in remote areas, so they have very little access to medical care. So I think since they pay the same national health care insurance fee as other people, they should be able to entitle to the same level of health care. And also, because of the economic difficulties, there are more than 30,000 indigenous persons who are not insured by the National Health Insurance Service. And another 20,000 indigenous persons are suspended from the service because they fail to pay the fee. So the protection of the right to health provided in ICESCR Article 12, Item 1 and 2 doesn't fulfill the case of indigenous people here in Taiwan. So our recommendations are as follows. The government should establish smaller scale local hospitals, increase medical personnel and equipment in the ER, and improve the referral system. This is the obligation of the government, not the private medical situations. And also the commercialization of healthcare system also led to the result that many doctors and nurses prefer to stay in the big hospitals in urban areas. In Hualien, there are only 2 specialists. So the government should amend this scholarship system on cultivating medical personnel and create inducements to attract more people to become medical personnel. It shall also improve medical personnel's knowledge on indigenous culture and social life, and encourage medical personnel to service in indigenous areas in order to facilitate a better health situation and a better public health condition for the indigenous persons in Taiwan. Thank you.
Next we have the Taiwan Tongxi Hotline Association, and I was told they're combining it with the report that comes later. Yes? Okay. So you have the floor.
大家好，我是同志咨。
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I'd like to talk about medical care for transgender peoples. Right now, transgender peoples do not have the right to choose their gender freely in Taiwan. They're not allowed to change their sex registered on the ID cards. Their condition is regarded as a disease in Taiwan, so they have to go through the medical process to be diagnosed. However, these people are being marginalized, and in terms of transgender surgery, they do not enjoy health insurance, and they do not get compensation from the National Health Insurance System. So they actually are paying for this doubly. So this is a disease, but it's not included in the coverage. And it's actually a burden for them because they have to sacrifice their health, they have to pay for this, and after the surgery, they have to sort of give up their their right to give birth in order for them to change sex. And also after the surgery, their situation does not get better. For example, we have a real case here. There's a transgender person, and he went to a nightclub, and it was then investigated or checked by the police force. And then, of course, he was asked to show his ID. And then through the ID check, the police easily has access to his record or information about the transgender surgery. So this person was just enjoying himself in the pub, but then he got interrogated by the police. For example, why did you receive the surgery? Why did you do this? So he was ousted, and his rights were invaded. His privacy was invaded. So in terms of the ID, there's a column for people to fill in gender. And in Taiwan, ID is basically needed everywhere. And every time when you show your ID, people will see that the picture on your ID does not really match how you really look for the transgender people.
In our recommendation and a reply, but I would like to address that is HIV, their health rights. So for the HIV positive in Taiwan, the Taiwanese HIV positive, they have difficulty to access the Medicare. When they found that the HIV positive, in most of the cases, they are rejected by the medical institutions. So they won't get the medical service. On the second, on the HIV positive, they are not included in the public health insurance. Government use another special budget to cover the payment and the spendings about the HIV positive medical service. And in current situation, that government requests that HIV positive has to pay partial for their medicals. Yeah, so in this case, which means the HIV positives in Taiwan, they have to pay double money to get the medical. Yeah, one is the annual month for the public health insurance. Another one is the partial payment for especially for the HIV, the ARV, the drugs. Yeah. So the second is for the foreigners. That the foreigners totally cannot access the medical care in Taiwan, because once they found they are HIV positive, then they will face the problem that is the forced deporting. Yeah, so that's our suggestion and comments. Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed for this additional information. Okay, next on my list we have the Mental Health Association and the Taiwan Fund for Children and Families, and then the NGO, UN NGO Association of World Citizens in Taiwan. Yeah. You shared it, so please go ahead.
Good morning, and I represent Taiwan Gender Equity Education Association, and I'm going to talk about the issue of LGBT students, stand for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender students' rights, and the current insufficient of the LGBT education, and the background of the dispute of LGBT education, and our suggestions are in the handout. So I'm going to talk more about some cases, and I'm going to speak that in Mandarin.
LGBT students, their human rights has been seriously affected or exploited in Taiwan. I can give you a few examples. In year 2000, in a high school in Pingdong County, third grade student, because of his non-traditional gender temperament, he was found dead in the bathroom of the school. There were other cases in 2011 that who committed suicide because the families and his friends did not accept his gender tendency. And also, this actually happened on the second day of the Gay and Lesbian Parade in 2011. There were other suicide cases. 2 lesbian students in Pingdong committed suicide together in a hotel in Pingdong City. There are also many students, especially especially male students, they dare not to go to the bathroom at school because they are afraid that their classmates will practice prank on them. And the guidelines provided to the teachers, the Ministry of Education do not mention any issues on this matter because they do not attribute it as cultural or structural issue. Cases like this, and also we hope that students will not be affected in terms of their right for education being exploited because their gender or sexual preference or tendency. We hope that the Ministry of Education can provide more resources and opportunity for the teachers to learn about the situation of these children, to do something similar to affirmative action. This is something that we hope the MOE will do. And we also hope the MOE can also direct schools of different levels in terms of teaching. They have to be gender friendly. That is truly important. We truly hope that the Ministry of Education can do this despite of the objection of some right-wing religious groups. Thank you. I would like to explain that the presentation was actually combining number 6 and number 11, so we are not taking additional time. Just want to explain to other organizations.
Thank you for being so self-controlled, and I, in the interest of all the others, and thanks for the presentations, which I found very interesting. We now continue with the Mental Health Association. Yes, please.
Guten Morgen.
Guten Morgen.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah. So I speak in Chinese or English?
Oh, I thought you were going to speak in German.
Okay. WHO put forth no mental health, no health. But our government didn't face the critical problems to resolve it. So it's a vicious cycle, and the new challenge make Taiwan now have many mental health crises. First, the psychiatry outpatient service statistics shows that we have 300,000 psychosis, schizophrenia, MDP, and 1.2 million neuroses, etc. Second, the substance abuse, domestic violence, suicide. How can we resolve it? Third, everyone from birth till old age, every stage have a mental health challenge. So we have this problem for 40 years. To establish independent Department of Mental Health is the critical breaking through point. But the lawmakers' first initial trial, the result is incredibly changed to Department of Oral and Mental Health. Oh, so how do you think? How can we incredibly to make the right things right? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And next we have the Taiwan Fund for Children and Families, and the and then number 12, the NGO Association of World Citizens in Taiwan. The microphone. Okay. So, and after that, we're going to have the Anti-Action Coalition and the Chen Cheng Zung. Thank you very much. Please, you have the floor, madam.
Thank you, committee members. I would like to highlight the violation of Article 15 by the state through judicial proceedings and the taxation measures to deprive civilian and cultural rights. Taijimen is a group of Qigong martial arts and Taoist practice. It has been dedicated to the promotion of Chinese martial arts and Qigong with an aim to enhance people's health in body, mind, and soul. Taijimen has been engaged in international cultural exchanges activities to spread the message of love and peace around the world. Taijimen was caught into religious crackdown by the government in 1996 with no proof of legal evidences. The prosecutor took custody of civilian assets unlawfully and ordered local governments to disband Taijimen. The most absurd was the bank account balance of $20,000 turned into 0.16 billion. And this case was transferred to the bank tax bureau for tax assessment and penalty. In 2007, the criminal charges were ruled not guilty with no tax evasion and no violation of the tax code of 3 levels of court hearings in 10 years and 7 months. The defendants unlawfully detained during case investigation or received compensation from the state for injustice in year 2009. The contribution from these two shifu based upon recognition of belief and cultural affinity were treated as tuition income and taxed accordingly. Assets of Taijimen leader and his wife have been frozen without being able to meet any basic life need. Tax authority even continue to order injunction orders prohibiting disposal of assets. The injunction order has never been lifted for 7 years now. The right of life of its leader and his wife are seriously violated, along with the cultural rights of tens of thousands of these to engage cultural and religious activities. Despite of the report from Control-Yuan identifying the 7 flaws of taxation practice in the Taijimen case, the tax administration continued to issue tax bills. The victim requests of accessing the files and documents were denied by the tax authority for the reason of personal data protection. Tax agent further to issue travel ban on his leader to secure their claims of tax due. As of today, the tax continue to drag down.
Excuse me, madam. I'll give you half a minute longer
Okay.
if you slow down a little bit.
I'm sorry, because I want to finish in 2 minutes, okay? I'm come to my conclusion. Through today's report, I would like to call upon government bodies' actions to respect the operation and cultural heritage of civil societies. The rituals, ceremonies, and contributions, as long as not acting against the public order and good moral, should be protected and honored as a form of freedom of belief, expression, and a cultural right. The state should not intervene to evaluate, hinder, or obstruct the practice, nor should the state force the change or treat discriminatory with biased interpretation of tax code or violation of procedure injustice. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. I was looking at the interpreters, you see.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
I only have 2 minutes.
They did a
7 years is a long, long, long story. You cannot say the 17 years suffering in 2 minutes.
Course,
I try my best.
Yes,
Okay.
and you did. Thank you. Next, we have the Taiwan Fund for Children and Families. And then the UN NGO Association for World Citizens in Taiwan. Nobody? Okay, then we have the anti-action. And perhaps you could just tell us why there were 3 antis. Okay, the floor is yours.
Good morning. First of all, let me explain the three anti. What does it mean? Number one, anti-improper development, and anti-illegal development, anti-explosion. Thank you. Good morning. Following will be the combined presentation of 4 indigenous groups. Anti-Action Coalition, Guardian IPACT, Association for Taiwan Indigenous Peoples Policies. On behalf of the 4 organizations, we'd like to thank you for coming here. Especially, we'd like to thank Professor Dandan for especially concerning about indigenous issues. We would like to reiterate that the government need to protect the right of education and other rights. The ignorance of the government have forced 46% of our population to move to the cities to find a blue-collar job. Not many youngsters have stayed within the tribes, so it will be difficult for us to protect the heritage of our tribes, and the enterprises through BOT projects, they force our tribe people to sell their lands for lucrative business development. What's more important is that we really like to see a comprehensive development policy for the indigenous group. Currently, what we truly see is the government only provide financial incentives or subsidies to indigenous groups or organizations, which may affect negatively the impression for indigenous people. On the other hand, the tribe people has been overly dependent on the subsidies and do not think clearly about the future. So we believe that the government should review its policy direction to truly negotiate and talk with local communities of indigenous tribes to truly provide employment opportunities and bring back the youngsters to the tribe. By doing so, we'll be able to advance in terms of our community and the protection of our heritage. With that, I'd like to conclude my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. Very clear presentation. Next on my list is Chen Cheng Tsung and Hong Chen Ting Hui Huan Chun Ta, and I apologize for my pronunciation. Oh, it's done. You combined. Thank you. That was very good. Next, we have the Taiwan Access for All Association. I'm on number 19 now. Okay.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is my second presentation to the panel. I would like to show you some photos on this yellow paper to show the inaccessibility for wheelchairs or physically challenged people. In Taiwan, we have 1.1 million of mentally and physically challenged people. Among them, 400,000 of them are physically challenged. Many of them are on wheelchair. But as you can see, central and local government, they have established roadblocks like this, preventing the access of wheelchair. These roadblocks, as you can see from these photos, the government claimed they take good care of mentally and physically challenged people. However, as you can see, the inaccessibility have prevented the mentally and physically challenged people from going outdoors. These people are are stuck at home. The government had created all these obstacles and blocks in parks, sidewalks. People on wheelchair cannot move on the sidewalks. They have to use the road along with motorcycles and cars. This is truly a ridiculous policy.
And also, for example, in historical sites or cultural places, playgrounds or in theaters, for example, the first picture on the second page, there are softer pavement, and actually the pavement there punches through the tires of wheelchairs. And also there are bars set here so that wheelchairs do not get into the facilities. And there are a lot of barriers in historical sites, so wheelchair users cannot get into these places. We talked to the government, and the response from the government is that, well, this is a heritage, this is a historical site, we cannot take down these barriers. So basically the government is telling us that people using wheelchairs are not allowed to get into these historical sites to have a look at these historical heritage. And also a lot of so-called non-barrier facilities are made by people who have very little knowledge about handicapped people. They do not know or understand the needs of the disabled people. And also in terms of social participation, there aren't too many services available. And people in wheelchairs actually have to spend their own money to get access to public places. And also there are buses that are available for wheelchair users, and but the service is not that available. Wheelchair users actually have to pay out of their own pockets in order to hire private buses. And also there's a gap between the urban area and sub or rural area. I've been devoted myself into the promotion of the rights of wheelchair users or the physically challenged for more than 30 years. However, I haven't seen any progress made by the government. Also, wheelchair users cannot get access to ferry boats. So I very much look forward to Taiwanese government's attention to the needs of these physically challenged people. Thank you.
For your presentation, and we next have the National Association of the Deaf. Yeah. Yes, please. You have the floor, madam.
Good morning. I'm here on behalf of the National Association of the Deaf. I'm not good in English because I have a hearing impairment. Speaking Mandarin Chinese is already a big challenge for me. I'm better in sign language, but today to serve or to communicate with everybody, I still choose to talk with my poorly pronounced Chinese. I'd like to talk about education for the deaf people here in Taiwan. In terms of education, I think, for example, the teaching of sign language, these are quite an issue. A lot of teachers in the hearing impairment schools do not know how to sign, and they cannot provide sign language teaching in different educational stages. So deaf students are not able to communicate with their teachers fluently. And this results a very bad dilemma where students cannot talk and they cannot sign well either. So this is one of the biggest challenges that deaf students have encountered at schools. And since they do not have a very good education of sign language, these students cannot sign and communicate with society properly. So a lot of, for example, sexual harassment cases happen without being properly communicated. And a lot of people believe that people with deaf problem need to wear electronic ears. However, that does not solve the problem. And it seems to be telling society that every deaf people need to wear electronic ears. This actually takes away our right to sign and to communicate in our ways. And we're kind of stigmatized by society. And as a deaf person, I feel that I am never informed of anything. For example, on televisions, we're not able to get information immediately because not all programs or shows have subtitles, which is why we usually feel that we are not informed or we are neglected. And there's also, for example, during the incident of March 11th earthquake in Japan, on TVs we saw that every time when there was an emergency announcement, there's always a sign language interpreter there for everybody to know the information. But here in Taiwan, we don't have that. So I feel that our rights are not being honored. And for example, during the presidential inauguration ceremony, there was no sign language interpreter neither. I think it was simply disrespect for the deaf people. And it's a disrespect to our right to information. And so the deaf people are being marginalized and actually excluded from society. So I feel really bad and sad about it. I have to emphasize that we would like to see CRPD being really honored here in Taiwan to fight for rights for the deaf people here in Taiwan. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that very instructive presentation. And that brings me to the end of the formal list, but there was another speaker, so the floor is yours now. I'm sorry, the lady first, because she's been waiting for a long time, and you too. Okay. Perhaps you come up front already so that we save time. Please, the floor is yours.
是我第二次的发言。
This is the second time for me to talk here. I'd like to thank the chairman for giving me the opportunity to talk again, to talk about the difficulties that we encounter here in Taiwan.
Country. And the government lets us become disabled people. 那接下来我用中文。
I'd like to switch to Chinese now. This is a picture that we took last year in our previous protest. We would like to fight for our rights to live freely in the community. The person you see here is severely disabled, who requires 24/7 care. And he is asking the government to provide him with the care that he needs. However, there's no response from the government, and his life is slowly dripping away day by day. On the protest day, each one of us held the sign saying that we're in jail, we're imprisoned. Even though we live in society, we're kind of like inmates. We do not enjoy any freedom. All of our activities are constrained. Honestly, we didn't commit any crimes, but we were kind of like prisoners. So we are excluded from society. We are not able to attend any activities. And there are people who are locked in their homes without being able to go out. And sometimes their basic rights, for example, their right to live, are being threatened. And even some of the people have to sleep in seating position. These people do not have access to the care that they need in order to survive. However, due to limited care that they have to live on a chair. They could only have one meal a day. And they actually go to the doctors by themselves. And in order for them to live independently, they actually have folio or catheters installed so that they do not have to bother others to take them to the restroom or to the bathroom. And also many friends of mine are faced with this type of predicament every day. They don't get to choose. And actually, two of my friends committed suicide because they suffered so much pressure. And they suffered from mental health challenges as well. So without legal protection, without family support, some of them decided to kill themselves, to terminate their lives. So I'm here to call for the attention of the government. Please do not neglect us. Please do not stop giving us resources just because we don't seem to be able to make any contributions to society. I'd like to ask the government to review what we need here and to review the government policies. Otherwise, these policies are simply just like decoration without any substantial meaning. Thank you.
Particularly for being such an active participant in the NGO coalition. So the last speakers are here up front, so please introduce yourself.
Esteemed members, we're from the Taiwan Alliance for Victims of Urban Renewal, and we're bringing the case of Wenling Yuan particularly today. First, I'd like to clarify the difference between urban renewal and land acquisitions by the government. The most important part for urban renewal is that through a government, urban renewal actually takes in little or virtually no considerations for public interests, and the government authorizes the private enterprise into coming into a zone which is private, like to zone their own development sites. So basically, they come in and if they do calculations, it's profitable, and there are still people living in the area, like old houses, or like 10, sometimes even 10 houses that are only 10 years old, and they actually come in, and then actually, and they after a certain percentage of people agreeing to this urban renewal, or as I like to call it, real estate development, the government can, the real estate developer can actually ask the government to come in using police force to drag the people who refuse to evict to go out, dragging by force. And this statute also gives lucrative zoning bonuses for developers. So basically, the government is saying, if you the larger parcel of land, larger you go, the more buildings you can build, and larger in size you can build, and it's all for developers' private interest. And the case of Wenling Yuan is exactly this problem, where legitimate property owners or the Wong family were dragged out on March of 2012 by 1,000 police officers. And I will show a very brief part of that brutality. Oh, okay. Where the Wong family and the supporters were brutally separated, and it clearly violated the principle of proportionality. And we recommend the government should revise the Urban Renewal Act and detailed procedures of forced eviction according to ICESCR General Committee number 7. And there's also another point, because Wenling Yuan is actually not just, it's actually a commonality in Taiwan. According to the, even though, because there's many cases of urban renewal, and, with several attempts of arson, gang violence, and unlawful murders towards resisting homeowners, perpetuated by private developers, and was even proven guilty by the courts. Yet, until now, no law or incidents can cause the urban renewal to be stopped or become void. And unless the developer himself says, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. And okay. I'll leave the information. Thank you, sir. Thank you, madam.
Thank you. This concludes our hearing, but we have just a very short presentation from you.
爱好及南摩诺夫嘎哥，我们代表板炸守护联盟。
We're here. Would like to report on how the Taiwanese government violates Article 13 and 14 of ICESCR. In 1945, the government had gone to indigenous people's house one by one to force the indigenous people to change their names to Han Chinese names. And their languages are not allowed to be used anymore. And
regarding the revitalization of indigenous language, we have the following points to raise. The government intentionally exclude indigenous language class as a subject in the formal school curriculum. This is also a serious deficit of indigenous language teachers. There's also a lack of sufficient qualification examination to evaluate the indigenous language teachers, and no further professional training is provided. There is a unit in the Council of Indigenous Peoples to be specially in charge of the research of development of indigenous language set up according to the Indigenous Education Act. However, we haven't seen this happening yet. And also, the government made very little effort to develop the writing system of indigenous language. As to the resuming traditional geological names, indigenous geological names were generated from the specific worldview of indigenous peoples, including knowledge of animals, plants, environment, and governing, and so on. Finally, regarding to the resuming of indigenous names, many people deny that they discriminate indigenous people, but discrimination against indigenous people is still widespread in the society. However, 18 years after the adoption of the Name Act, only 20,000 out of the 520,000 indigenous population have resumed their traditional names because of all the restrictions and difficulties. Names are the evidence of our existence. Without names, we don't exist.
Thank you very much indeed, and also for providing us the information which sums up what you've just said. Okay. This concludes our hearing with the non-governmental organizations. Let me say on behalf of the committee how very much we appreciated your work that you have done. We realize that you are at the heart of the human rights issues, and the dedication that you show. We're really proud to have younger generation to care and show solidarity with people who really need the protection, and we take into account your views. Of course, we come to our own conclusions, but it helps us to have not just the government opinions, but also the views of the non-governmental organizations. And without that, we couldn't do our job properly. Thank you for coming. Thank you for supporting it and for all the work that you have done. Thank you.